that most of the palms in that area, at least, the species that grow there, the genuses that grow there, genera that grow there, will do the same thing. That hasn't been tested. But he has found them, he's a very good phytochemist, and he's found them chemically very similar. Now there's no reason why those things can't be broken down chemically and tested. Because things like palm roots, Chancapiedra, the one for gallstones, is very effective dried, and so are the palm roots. Those are sold in the market in Lima. They're very popular there because they've got to be quite well known. Then let's see, what other diseases? For eyes, I was going up Rio Tigre on my way far in, and a settler, standing on the bank, jumped up and down, kept waving and waving. We pulled over to see what was the matter, and when we got close, I have never seen a more hideous pair of eyes. One of them was dripping pus and blood. The other was just swollen and had some pus in it. It wasn't running down his face. And they were in very bad shape. He had been clearing land, and he got some sawgrass, whipped across his eyes, cutting the corneas, which got very badly infected. Jungle's a great place for infections. Well, I offered him immediate. I had brought both penicillin and tetracycline ointments, and also even old, faithful yellow oxide of mercury in the last, if you couldn't get anything else. And he'd had all of those. He got them from a military base that was just up the river, and from a trader who came along who had the yellow oxide of mercury. At the military base he got the antibiotics. Well, the antibiotics had rather helped the eye that looked not quite so bad. The other one, nothing had helped. And so I didn't know what to do, and my boatman said, "But look, amigo, you're standing on the remedy." And he was standing on it's a grass, and it grows about so high. And he said, "You take this, and you pull it apart at the node, and then you run your fingernail down, and out will come one crystalline drop of sap. The juice of that grass. You put 2 drops of that in each eye every morning and every night, and we'll find you cured when we get back." And so the man thanked him, and he said he would do it, and I never heard of that. And so, sure enough, when we came back 2 weeks later, it was exactly 2 weeks, too, I know because I had to pay the boatman about a day, he was jumping up and down and waving, and he was the happiest guy you ever saw. He said, "My eye, look. Well, one eye looked, I have seen more bloodshot eyes on people with a bad hangover. And the other one was still a little inflamed, the one that had been so very bad. But there was no pus, no blood. It was obviously, the treatment was a success. And the infection was gone, and the healing was progressing rapidly. And well on its way. On the right eye was, no, actually it was the left, I was there, was perfect. Not quite perfect, but I mean, there was, except for being a bloodshot. And the other one, the sweat. And yucca and everything grew there. give us a very unhappy chicken, which went all the way back to Iquitos with us. And, but you know, a chicken's a valuable gift in there, because chickens are not native. So, when we got going again, I said, you told me you didn't know anything about plant medicines. How come? He said, well, I didn't know it would cure that. But I thought it would, because it cured me of carnosidad, and if it'll cure carnosidad, it'll cure anything. And carnosidad is what they call pterygium, which is very common in tropical countries. It is actually, technically, I'm told, it's a benign tumor that begins at the tear duct and gradually spreads. Makes a layer about 1 millimeter thick, and until it covers the whole eye and you're blind. It is, people who can afford it can have it removed by surgery, which is expensive, and in Peru very frequently means the loss of an eye. But if you don't have radiation afterwards, it'll be back in a couple of years, and you have to go through it all again. And so my boatman, whose name is Natividad, told me that he had had pterygium, he had had carnosidad so badly that he was beginning not to be able to see. And he went to he was living in Brazil, and an old woman there told him to use this treatment. He said it took him 2 months. But look at him now. Well, look at him now. He didn't have a trace of anything wrong with his eyes. It had cleared it and cured it. Well, that, I think, just might, in many cases, do away with the need for corneal transplants, if it's the right kind of injury. What do you think, Doctor?
I think if you found a cure for pterygia, a permanent cure for pterygia, you really...
Oh, I know 2 or 3.
...itself would make you wealthy and noted throughout the...
Well, I know 2 or 3. The Indians use them. And there is a cypress, which is a sedge, but it's a scleria. That there is, but those things take a long time. For pterygium, that the treatment must be given every day. It doesn't hurt. In fact, the man on the shore told me that it had felt very cooling when he put it in, very soothing. And that takes 2 months for pterygium. 6 weeks to 2 months. Everyday treatment. But in the case of infection, it seems to work very much more rapidly. Yes. Please interrupt me any time to ask a question. I like it.
Nicole, I heard a story about you from a reliable source a few years ago that told me that you had gone from village to village and managed to kind of meet the old women in the village who had knowledge of their what's the word the contraceptive herbology.
Yes.
And that you had found out about different herbs that had very different kinds of effects. Like I remember she was telling me one herb you could take it and a couple of years later it would keep the woman infertile for 2 years.
Yes.
Another one, if they took it, it would be irreversible for a long time. And I've never heard you talk about it. I wondered if you could tell me a little bit about your experience.
Well, there's a number of them. You see, although these people have been using oral contraceptives since time immemorial, nobody knows how many centuries. We got them into circulation in 1960. And, but before, the early